mother released later on, but it clearly shows she did a piss poor job of raising this boy because obviously she didn't teach him a damn thing. And yeah, I said that. She didn't teach him a damn thing. You put your children on social media as a step stool to try to make yourself look better. You have to be really, really low to do something like that. You have to be really, really desperate and really, really low to ever attempt to do something like that. But again, we're dealing with Zach Smith here. We're dealing with a person who's not mentally stable, obviously. So, hey, here we go. Continues on with his tweets. Hey, Brett McMurphy, the person who exposed him to begin with. A few questions since you're an outstanding quote-unquote journalist. How did you get the interview with Coach Tom Herman, the football coach at Texas, as your first interview at Stadium? Well, here's the thing. His bosses probably told him, hey, go to Austin and interview him. That's how we got it. A little side note to that, Herman was reported to be the coach that was the mystery coach that was with Zach $600 on a recruiting trip at a strip club with football players when he was at Ohio State. So again, this whole thing reeks and stinks of high heaven. So to answer his question, his bosses told him to go do it. Second question, how come you didn't ask him about the alleged strip club incident that you reported on? Well, here's the thing. He didn't have to. It was already public knowledge by the time you got around to hearing about it, dimwit. So he didn't have to ask him about it because he already knew the answer to it. Says furthermore, did you ask him about the ensuing days? Which means it matters what to the situation. You got busted, so did he. Stop it. This goes back to what I'm saying, to where nobody wants to take responsibility for anything. Have you vetted any credibility in any of your reports? Well, let's see. Urban's a liar. You're a liar. So is Gene Smith and the university president. Seems as if your wife and his sources aren't. Guess I'm going to go with them on that one. No, says I'm waiting for one thing that is accurate beyond a name change or Photoshop session. I will see you in court after I sue you. Well, we'll see about that. So then he comes back and says, let's talk facts, since so many people, mainly the opposing fan base's fans, want to talk. And that's not necessarily true. Us in the media have been cooking him over an open flame, as I'm doing right now, and will continue to do until I get through these next few dumb questions. He says, one, my kids are suffering because of this, most of all. And he says, that's the most important. Actually, no, that's not the most important. Your ex-wife is suffering because of this too, because every time you open your mouth and you say something stupid, cheap, or dumb, she gets dragged back into the public spotlight as well, but I digress. Number two, I never beat my wife, which we know to be a lie because we've seen the text messages where you admitted to beating her and the pictures, and there being 3 other incidents made after 2009 in Florida, 2014, 15, and 17. Stop lying. Number three, OSU botched the investigation and worse off the punishment. Now, they did botch the investigation, but the punishment including your punk ass getting fired. So, they didn't botch that. Number four, they forced Urban Meyer into his statement. I hope at least he knows. I hope at least, because he knows what's real and would have never apologized. That too was a lie. Urban Meyer's a grown man. Nobody had a gun on him. Nobody threatened him. Nobody made him do anything. He sat back, formulated the statement with the public relations director, probably there at Ohio State, sat back, grudgingly read it, sat down, and lied through some more questions. So nobody forced him to do anything. So that too, take a hike. Number five, President Drake is either the cause of the joke of an investigation and or the punishment, or he allowed it. Which again, is not true. The Board of Regents brought along the investigation. The president's responsibility is to sign off on it and make sure that it proceeds forward. Which he did. He continues to want to talk about who was legitimately hurt in this. He brings up his children, which is true. So is your ex-wife, which you continue to keep forgetting and not bring up. The Buckeye players, who will not be hurt because they're not dealing with a lying sociopath who beats on his wife and lies and covers it up. The Ohio State staff, outside of the idiot head coach they have to work for, now at this point in time, again, don't have a sociopathic, woman-beating, sex toy ordering, adulterous, lying nimwit as a member of the staff. So no, they're better off for it. And for the fans who don't give a gee whiz about you, all they care about is winning games. He says, talk about victim shaming. Nobody wants the truth when it comes to stuff like this. Hypocritical people keep tweeting, you're hurting innocent people. Take your own advice. Log off. Delete your account before you log off, but log off, don't log back on, and shut up. Nobody wants to hear you in this whine fest and, oh, I'm the victim, feel sorry for... No, nobody wants to hear that, Zach. Just shut up. Log off, delete your account, disappear, fade into the background, become irrelevant like you were before this even happened, and we can all move on from this and be just fine. But of course, he doesn't want to do that. And apparently neither does Urban Meyer, who late this morning released a statement, which in part said, while I stand by my apologies to Courtney Smith, her children, and everyone else, there have been a number of things reported in the media about President Drake's decision and the investigative team report that have not been correct and must be clarified. Let me stop right there. You're waiting until 2 weeks after this happens, while you're serving a suspension, after this dimwit has done this, and now you want to clarify a few things. Gotcha. First, I was not suspended because I knew about or condoned Zach Smith's alleged domestic abuse. He says alleged domestic abuse, which means that he still doesn't believe that Zach Smith did anything, that he's innocent himself, Urban Meyer is innocent, and that all this should have been just brushed aside and forgotten about. So this whole little crap about last week, when I forgive, I'm sorry for everybody that's involved, and you apologize to Courtney Smith, just like you did here, is a bunch of BS and hot air. We see right through it. Continue on with his statement. On domestic violence, here's what the lead investigator stated at the press conference. Overall, Coach Meyer impressed us with a sincere commitment to the respect for women core value that he espouses and tries to instill in his players. Well, you can't be a leader of men if you're a liar and you cover up for domestic abusers. But I digress. On domestic violence, here's what the investigative report concluded. Said we believe that Coach Meyer, as is Zach Smith, that if Coach Meyer were to ever learn that Zach Smith had physically abused his wife, Coach Meyer would have fired Zach Smith or any other coach there on the spot, which again, he just said it was alleged domestic violence, not anything that really happened. He didn't believe him, therefore he wouldn't have fired him, which means that you lied during the investigation and during your press conference, and you're lying now again. Continuing on, President Drake expressly stated the reason for Coach Meyer's suspension at the August 22nd, 2018 press conference. Quote, based on the independent investigation, I want to clearly state that we believe Urban Meyer does not and did not condone domestic abuse. That's a lie. However, he did fail to take sufficient management action regarding Zach Smith, as he was not complete and accurate at media days and did not uphold the high standards and values of the university on that day. He is therefore suspended through September 2nd, and for the 3 games that have been previously listed and shown. Says second, as a report found and President Drake did, I did not lie at Big Ten Media Days, which he earlier admitted on Twitter that he did, and now he's on Twitter again now saying that he did it. Regarding Big Ten Media Days, the investigative report found, and I'm not even going to go into this big lengthy statement, basically saying that, hey, he didn't lie, but hey, I tried to tell the truth and tried to cover it up. Third, my fault in not taking action sooner against the trouble. Third, my fault was not in taking action sooner against the troubled employee about his work-related issues. Regarding his management of Zach Smith, the lead investigator stated the investigation identified multiple other examples of inappropriate conduct by Zach Smith while employed as an assistant football coach, some known by Coach Meyer and Gene Smith on the football staff. Coach Meyer and athletic director Smith's efforts to help Zach Smith overcome his personal issues went too far in allowing him to remain as an employee in the face of repeated misconduct. In other words, you just owned up to knowing that this happened. You just owned up to knowing all of this was in front of you and that you did nothing about it. You just owned up to allowing this to happen. 3 games is not enough. You just said that Gene Smith is guilty of all the same things. 14 or 17 days without pay is not enough. The president of the university still has his job, which again, that too simply is not enough. They all 3 wholeheartedly and very sincerely deserve to be fired. Urban Meyer shouldn't be allowed to coach any young men anymore, Gene Smith to lead an athletic department, and President Drake to lead a university. Because you all 3 very clearly have no idea or semblance of the idea of what it means to be a man, or what it means to be an upstanding human being, or what it means to be an upstanding individual, or what it means to be a university employee. Because you all took the university code, the rules that are involved in it, spit in it, laughed at it, and said, hey, we got football games to go win. It's not fair to Courtney Smith and her children and her family and her friends and her supporters and people who know her that they have to continue to see this joke continue. And it's not going anywhere anytime soon. There are already more questions to answer at this point. And every time one of these fools hops on Twitter and opens their mouth, there are now more questions that are going to be asked before this is all said and done with this mess. So this is something that's going to hang over Ohio State as a football program for the rest of this season. It's going to hang over Urban Meyer for the rest of his career. Gene Smith the same, President Drake the same, and the university the same. I will say again, as I said on this show several times, you can go back and listen to things I've said before. Once again, just like with Colin Kaepernick, and I told you guys, we'll get to that too here next. Told you guys what was going to happen. So, file this one away for right now. At some point in time, Shelly Smith's statement and her text messages and Urban Meyer's lies, at some point in time, all of that stuff is going to catch up to them like none other. Okay? And when it catches up, there's going to be a Title IX investigation involved. That university is going to get raked over the coals. It's going to open the door to so many other problems that have happened there and gone on there. And it eventually will result in someone getting fired. Don't know if it's going to be Urban Meyer or Gene Smith or President Drake. It could be 2 of them. It could be all 3 of them. It could be none of them. Somebody's going to take the fall for this. All because Urban Meyer decided to protect a domestic abuser. Moving on at this time to the NFL, and as previously been reported on this program, the NFL's attempts to speed up and end Colin Kaepernick's collusion case against him, which happened roughly about a month ago. I said the decision could come days before the regular season, and I was actually off by about a week. As reported late Wednesday afternoon, and first reported by Yahoo Sports' Charles Robinson, Colin Kaepernick has won the summary judgment phase of his collusion case, a phase of the case specifically requested by the NFL in hopes of dismissing Colin Kaepernick's collusion case altogether. Arbiter Stephen Burbank has refused dismissal and ruled in favor of Kaepernick, moving the case towards a hearing, which is actually a huge blow towards the NFL and 345 Park Avenue. What this basically means for Colin Kaepernick is that the arbiter weighed the current evidence and essentially told the NFL that its opinion of Kaepernick not being a center for collusion did not hold up to summary judgment. Basically, he's seeing smoke being thrown by the NFL. He saw no legal precedence or reason to dismiss the case, and told the young man and Mark Garagos and his legal team to proceed forward with no further legal impediment from 345 Park Avenue. This is a big win for Colin Kaepernick, and this is a huge loss for the NFL. Hashtag as expected, hashtag as predicted.